Did you know that right now we're literally extracting resources 1.7 times faster than the Earth can actually regenerate them? It's kind of wild to think about. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the overarching architecture of sustainability. We're going to map out exactly how these massive, sometimes totally overwhelming concepts break down into the very real, tangible aspects of our everyday lives. So, if you've ever wondered how the big picture of planetary health actually connects to the streets you walk on, well, you're absolutely in the right place.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. Before we can truly understand the mechanics of a sustainable world, we have to pause and ask ourselves what this really broad, heavily overused buzzword actually means at its core. I mean, we see the word sustainable slapped on literally everything, from corporate annual reports to our morning coffee cups, right? But to really grasp the source material we're looking at today, we need to strip away all that marketing noise and look at the absolute bare bones of the concept. To do that, we're going to treat this explainer like a blueprint. We have 5 distinct phases. 1, the sustainability blueprint. 2, managing Earth's core resources. 3, agriculture and food systems. 4, transportation and urban planning. And 5, business and social responsibility. We're starting wide with the overarching concepts and funneling all the way down. Section 1, the sustainability blueprint, defining the core concepts. Let's start at the very top of our funnel with the most foundational layer. When the source material talks about sustainability and sustainable development, it's really laying down the ultimate ground rule for human existence. It's all about how our societies can exist and, this is key, progress without depleting the natural resources required for the future. The real friction here is that word progress. We want modern medicine, global connectivity, comfortable homes, all of it. But achieving that without draining the planet's savings account, that is a monumental balancing act. Sustainability is essentially the philosophical umbrella under which every other system has to operate. It isn't just about surviving, it's about progressing responsibly. And sustainable development isn't just some monolithic idea. It's more like a pie made up of very specific, interlocking systems. Think of it as 5 key areas of human activity that we interact with every single day. You can't just go in, fix one area, and expect the whole system to hold together. They're entirely dependent on one another, creating a really delicate equilibrium. Section 2. Managing Earth's core resources, the foundation. Moving down the funnel from our overarching philosophy, we reach the physical bedrock of our planet. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. You absolutely cannot have sustainable development without first asking how we intend to manage the absolute bare essentials of planetary survival. To put the stakes into perspective for a second, humanity is currently on track to face a 40% shortfall in global freshwater supply by 2030 if our consumption habits don't change. 40%. Everything we build, everything we consume starts right here, with our most fundamental assets. The source material clearly defines sustainable resource management by breaking it down into 3 non-negotiable physical elements: water, air, and land. It's a wonderfully simple but profound categorization. For instance, managing land sustainably isn't just about, preserving beautiful forests. It's about protecting incredibly fragile topsoil that takes hundreds of years to generate just a few centimeters, yet it can literally be blown away in a single season of poor farming. Without strict stability in these 3 columns, the rest of the blueprint just collapses. The core realization here is absolute dependency. When we talk about water management, air quality preservation, and land conservation, we are talking about the strict prerequisites for human life. Every subsequent human system we're going to look at today relies entirely on the successful management of these 3 specific baseline resources. If we fail here, the rest of the puzzle pieces just do not fit. Section 3, agriculture and food systems, the fuel. Now that we have a foundation of land and water established, let's see how this builds into our next level. Think about your own day for a second. Every single time you eat a meal or grab a snack, you're directly interacting with this exact layer of the sustainability matrix. The question of how we feed the future sustainably is honestly incredibly daunting when you realize that global food production will need to increase by nearly 70% to feed an estimated 10 billion people by the year 2050. This isn't abstract at all. It's intimately tied toward daily survival. The source specifically links sustainable agriculture with food systems, creating a really clear 2-step journey. Step 1 is sustainable agriculture. That's the how we grow phase, dealing directly with the land and water we literally just discussed. Step 2 is sustainable food systems. That's the how we distribute and consume phase. And bridging those 2 steps, it's a massive logistical challenge. Consider that globally, a huge portion of the food we grow is lost in transit simply due to a lack of cold chain refrigeration.
that represents a massive waste of the carbon and water used to grow it in the first place. It's a continuous loop from the moment a seed is planted to the moment that food reaches our dining tables. And this brings us to a pretty stark reality check. We have to recognize that we cannot have a sustainable food system without first securing the sustainable water and land resources we previously outlined. Human survival completely depends on aligning our agricultural practices directly with our resource management. They are inextricably linked, no way around it.
Section 4. Transportation and urban planning, the infrastructure. As populations grow and we need to distribute the food we just talked about, we arrive at the infrastructure layer.
If you commute to work, if you take a bus, or if you simply live within a city limit, this is the structural layer of sustainability that dictates your daily movement and your physical environment. And let's be real, nothing makes you question the sustainability of modern human existence quite like sitting in dead-stop, bumper-to-bumper gridlock traffic for an hour just to travel 3 miles. The layout of your neighborhood and the roads you travel are all actively shaping our sustainability blueprint.
The source expertly pairs two vital concepts together here. On one hand, we have sustainable transportation, which focuses on the actual vehicles and the transit networks we use to physically move around. On the other hand, we have sustainable urban planning, focusing on the spatial design and the zoning of the cities we live in. These two things cannot exist in a vacuum. You can't have a truly green transit network if your city's spatial design forces everyone into those hours of gridlock. Look at a place like Copenhagen, for example, where urban planning actively prioritized protected bike networks and dense mixed-use zoning long before electric cars were mainstream. The planning absolutely has to support the transit.
Section 5. Business and social responsibility, the engine. Finally, we reach the most modern, complex layer of human organization in our funnel.
If the previous layers were the foundation, the fuel, and the infrastructure, this layer is the engine driving our modern world. And it begs a vital question. Every time you buy a product, subscribe to a service, or invest $1, you are effectively voting on how the corporate engine influences our air, our water, our land, and our cities. The scale of this engine is staggering. When you consider that just 100 global companies have been the source of over 70% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions since 1988, you realize pretty quickly that corporations wield immense, unparalleled power within this blueprint.
The source draws a really crucial line between internal and external actions here. First, we have sustainable business practices. These are the internal operational choices a company makes to minimize its direct environmental impact, like, say, cutting down on supply chain waste or reducing water usage in their factories. But paired with that, we have corporate social responsibility, or CSR. This is the ethical obligation a business has to society at large. Operating sustainably isn't just about changing the light bulbs in the office to save on the energy bill, right? It's about a much broader, outward-facing responsibility to the communities and the planetary ecosystem they operate within.
So, bringing this all together, what the source material is really revealing to us is that sustainability is a completely interconnected taxonomy. It's like a giant puzzle. You simply cannot have sustainable corporate businesses without sustainable urban infrastructure. And that infrastructure requires a steady, sustainable food supply, which in turn rests entirely on the absolute bedrock of sustainable water, air, and land management. It is a single, continuous chain. So, I want to leave you with this final, vital question. As you go about your day-to-day, breathing the air, eating your food, traveling to work, or buying a product, I want you to ask yourself, which part of this blueprint are you impacting right now? Because every single dollar you spend and every commute you make is a vote for how this interconnected architecture is built. So, how are you casting your vote today? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.